time for Opinion Court. Thank you for staying with us. 22422 is our SMS line if you want to get in touch with us, and if you're online, please use the hashtag Opinion Court so that we can track your conversation and your feedback. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to discuss a range of topics this evening, all on the politics of the week. My guest in studio, to my far right, Edward Kisiangani. He's our resident political analyst. Next to me is the very colorful Kimani Waishungwa, the Kikuyu legislator, and to my left, the ODM Elections Director, Jeanette Mohammed, and you're all welcome to the program. So today we heard the government say that the maize that is currently being subsidized is a maize that we have in stock in the country. This is not the zero-rated maize that is yet to be circulated. And the question begs, Kimani, because when Kenyans think of the entire way in which this maize issue has been handled, if this is the same maize that was in stock all along, why did it take so long to have it subsidized so that we can get to affordable prices for Kenyans?
I think from the explanations I've had from the PS and the CS in charge of agriculture before the committee, I think they've been very well forthcoming with very good facts on the situation of drought and the food security situation in the country. One, that we had about 1.8 million bags, I think, by February or end of January this year. And 1 million to about 1.1 million bags are the bags that have been given out to millers before, expecting that these bags then would be used by the millers to bring down the cost of maize flour. But unfortunately, because of the way our business people operate, the millers did not bring down the cost of maize flour. And therefore, government then decided to take the new interventions that they did with the budget, during the budget. First was to remove the duty from maize, imported maize, and now the subsidy that has been done now. The question you've asked is why now and not then? And the answer is simple, that the government, the ministry, from the ministry explanation is that they did expect that once they released maize from the SGR stocks to millers then, because we're getting this maize, I think, at about 3,600 shillings. Yeah, 3,600 or 3,400 if I remember,
right?
Or something about 3,600. Then they'll be able to bring down the cost of maize flour. But unfortunately, millers did not do that, and this is why now government has decided eventually the only thing you can do then is to bring in subsidies to both the big and small millers to be able to bring down the cost of maize flour.
And you know, Jeanette, this is not the first time we hear an explanation like that, especially when it comes to essential commodities. And one is left to wonder whether a certain clique of unscrupulous business persons has the government by the throat, that really they can push them to the wall to that extent where government is forced to keep conceding ground.
Exactly, Anne. You know, what's happening is a manifestation of the total mismanagement of the agricultural sector of this country. The problems you are seeing today, the signs were seen long way ago, 3-4 months ago, and nobody took any action. But miracle happened, a ship arrived in 2 days in the country. Another miracle happened. We found some maize on the shelves yesterday which are written 90 shillings, but the date of manufacture is in March, the packets, and the expiry date is in August, the election day. So we are wondering whether Kenya's psychology is being played with. But you see, any country that cannot feed its citizens, or any government that cannot guarantee food security of its citizens, has no business of being called a government.
But aren't you mixing issues here? Because we had the explanation from the Deputy President this week. First of all, let's separate things. The maize that has come in is not the maize that is the 90 kg. That is yet to be, processed and packed. But the maize that right now is 90 kgs, this is what we already had in stock. So that's one thing. But on the other hand, in terms of the duration that it took for the maize to get here, the explanation from government is simple, that it's a month ago when this was zero rated. So millers have had a month to ship in their products.
You see, Anne, this is just misplaced priorities. If the government wanted to subsidize the maize that they have in the country, they will have done it long way ago, not now, until where Kenyans cannot have food on the table. You see, the maize, if they had enough maize, the way they are talking, there was no need of importing maize from Mexico at all. If there is enough maize in the country, this is a government that is not aware of what's happening in the country. They don't know how many bags of maize they have in the strategic grain reserve. They don't know how to feed their people, their own people. So this is just stories they are giving. You know, those are some of the stories that they have been giving all along, political statements that don't make any sense. And to complete, I can tell you for sure, even the 90 shillings packets you are seeing yesterday are just, it's just a showbiz. It's not there. This country does not have enough food to feed its people.
What do you mean it's not there? Are you saying Kenyans are not getting these bags at the retail?
No, it's not there. You go to any supermarket, no supermarket has any maize of 90 shillings.
I think you're asking Junaid a very difficult question. For sure, I've not seen him around Parliament today, and more so not before the Committee of Agriculture. And I would invite you to attend at least one of the meetings of the committee, because you're also a member of Parliament, and get the facts, so that when you speak to the nation, you speak based on facts. It's true, there is no maize. And I think I had even the PSA, even Google, you don't even need to attend the Committee of Agriculture. You will realize that there is no white maize anywhere in the world other than in Mexico. The other question of where the maize came from, whether it's Mexico or South Africa, I think those are shipping things that have been very well articulated and explained even to the ports, that you can get commodity ships. They're very huge commodity ships. There are only about 4 or 5 ports in the whole entire of Africa. I think Daban, 2 in Egypt, and I think 2 in Morocco somewhere. And that is how the maize came then to be shipped from Morocco, from Mexico to Daban, and then onward to Nairobi. 2 is the question of whether this maize is being imported now. What you are happy to tell Kenyans that the maize arrived the day after. And you forget that the Gazette notice was done on the 13th of April. That is exactly over a month ago. Therefore, any business person was free from then. And remember, even before that, even before the Gazette notice, it wasn't illegal to import maize into this country. This is the first time, Junaid, again you're forgetting, in the last 5 years that this country has had to import maize. Therefore, when you say it is mismanagement of the agricultural sector, I think you're just running away from the truth. Truth is, you had in your coalition, the ODM cobbled coalition, don't remember the name of that coalition, that has no agenda for this country. Because you had no agenda, you found an agenda now to run with Unga politics. But I want to tell you, this is a government that right from the beginning in 2013 set out on an agenda to transform our agricultural production. And you heard when the Deputy President was here with Anne, only this week, and I'm sure you watched that project, that program, the Deputy President talking about even plans now to do about 60 mega dams, so that we move away from rain-fed agriculture to irrigated agriculture. Questions have been asked, and I have had people buddy around figures of 14 billion shillings on Galana Kulalu, and I can tell you for a fact that project has not spent 14 billion shillings. It's less than 7 billion shillings. The 10,000 acres of land that has been put under irrigation as a model farm. Truth is that, the other truth is that there has been Unga Galana that has been processed at a cost of about 75 shillings from the model farm. The other fact of life, I don't know why you would deny it, if the flour hasn't gotten to sooner, it will soon be there, because as you heard, the bags that are being milled now, about 980,000 bags. What is currently in the country from the strategic grain is 750,000 bags, right. 100,000 bags that were with millers that were holding, and you had including a member of Parliament from Fort Kenya who has been holding 1,000 bags. All
right, Kimani, let's allow Junaid to respond before I bring in Prof.
And you see why I'm saying that they have mismanaged the agricultural sector of this country. They came here with a manifesto saying that they are going to have an irrigation scheme, Kulalu Galana. It's only producing 2 bags per acre after spending over 10 billion shillings. Number 2, these people don't have any tangible project that can help this nation for the last 4 years. All of them have been stories and showbiz. If the issue we are discussing here is the whole agenda of cost of living of Kenyans, it's not maize, it's not sugar, it's not milk. Everything is expensive. A packet of milk today is going for 70 shillings. 1 kilo of sugar has gone over 100 shillings. Why can't you bring a ship of sugar then, if you have commodities floating in the sea? Number 2, they are spending 6 billion shillings to subsidize millers. Why didn't they use that money to subsidize the farmer who is producing maize in Kitale, who is producing maize in Wazingishu? Why give that 6 billion shillings to millers who are just production, it's a production line? Why don't you spend that money on the farmer, the Kenyan farmer? That tells you how misplaced priorities they have. When NASA takes over power I can assure you that there is no single day in the history of the Republic of Kenya, this is the first time a packet of Unga has gone to 200 shillings. Because the people who are running the country are not aware of what's happening in the country. NASA gets to power, Unga. I remember the Deputy President promising Kenyans during the campaign, Unga will come to 60 shillings per packet. He meant it will go to 200 shillings. When NASA gets into power, it will come to a reasonable price, and there will be proper management of the agricultural sector of this country, because it's the backbone of the economy of this country.
Papa, what do you think about the politicking around this maize issue? Is it substantial?
It is trash. If you look at the noise that Kimani Ichung'wah is making, you see, a credible government must make statements that honestly can be believed by the people it looks after. Even when I hear about the noise that is coming out from this maize situation, I ask, where is government spokesman Eric Kiraithe, my friend? Because we need to listen to one story, and then we also authenticate whether this story has any veracity or it is just the trash I'm talking about. Well, he is talking about maize. You can't get the paper trail. He's talking about Morocco. You know what? The story you want to give must be believed by my own mother, my own grandmother. They should listen. They care about your honesty, and you must be believed by even nursery school kids. But you spend so much time talking about things. The Deputy President says this. Another person, the Minister for Agriculture, who I hardly follow properly because there's a lot of incoherence when he's making his point. The Minister says he says we gave them 3,000 shillings, they refused. So we end up with what? With now they refused, and then we started importing maize because the farmers had not done so. A government had not accepted our price. Now, if you look at that kind of situation, you see a government which really doesn't care. To ask, why are farmers rejecting a price the government has given them? These are some of the basic things that you look around and then you say, can we fix them? Now, in about just 1789, when we had the French Revolution, part of the reason why we had the French Revolution was about food. The mobs in Paris went out and then asked, we want bread, you know, and then the Queen Marie Antoinette said, what are these people saying? They want bread. Then, you know, the guards say, let them eat cake. Jubilee administration is out of touch with the people the way Marie Antoinette. The way Marie Antoinette was out of touch with the people, the mobs are saying, tell us the truth, let your story add up, and then we can even support you. One of the things that Jubilee has not embraced is to admit mistakes. You are not superhuman. So when you make mistakes, you also admit, we have misled the nation, we have made mistakes, then people can forgive you. In fact, ask for forgiveness. Right. But I want to say something about Junet Mohammed, because also he is responsible for this mess. And the country is crying for leadership. Where you have a problem is, you as an alternative government, a opposition in government, what have you, is this the first time you noticed that there was going to be a food shortage? What if you face the crowds in Nairobi or Kisumu or Mombasa? Will you tell them you never knew about the food crisis? You never raised anything in the parliament, that even if government is not acting, we would like also to inform the public that we have told you there's going to be a food crisis and we want you to solve it.
But what would the opposition do? They are not in a position
they have a civic responsibility
agriculture.
No, they have, they sit on the agriculture committee, and they receive a lot of data so they are supposed to say, well, you are in government, but let us also warn you that there's a food crisis and it will affect the people who support us. But other than wait until government gets into problems, then you start shouting anything about it.
And briefly, Prof is very good at throwing insults at everybody in this country, and I think it's all right to throw all those insults to people. But first, I just want to answer what Junet was asking. Why is it that we couldn't subsidize the farmers? I want to tell you that farmers indeed have been subsidized. Fertilizer from the time you were in the Grand Coalition government, fertilizer was going for about 6,000 shillings. Today it's an average of 1,800 shillings. You cannot subsidize maize from farmers because the farmers do not have the maize in the first place. You subsidize what is there. Why you are subsidizing to millers now is because the millers now have got the maize and maize that is being imported, and what was there in the strategic grain reserve. Two, the question that Prof is asking whether the opposition had a role. I want to tell you, the opposition, from the word go, because they also sit, as Prof says, in the Agriculture Committee and other committees of Parliament. They knew and they understand the problem the country has had. And it is not just Kenya. You know, if this thing was about Kenya alone, across the border in Tanzania, what a bag of maize is retailing at today, a 90 kg bag, is for an average of $46. That's 4,600 shillings. In Kenya, at least, it was about 4,100. What was being imported, if it was to be allowed to go out into the market from the millers, would have gone to the market at a price of about 4,500 shillings. And that's why government has come in now to subsidize that. And let us face facts, and the drought situation across the East African region did not just affect this country. One of the things that have compounded the Kenyan situation more is because the neighbors we ran to Uganda, because they have the other staple food of matoke, they also had an equally severe drought in the country. Same with Tanzania.
Did we plan to fail?
We did not plan to fail.
Could we have planned better?
Let me tell you,
I reject the notion that drought is the cause of the maize crisis. The maize crisis is caused, the food crisis in Kenya is caused by bad leadership. You have no foresight, you don't see things that are going to happen. And you know, it's not even affecting maize alone, it's also affecting milk, it's affecting sugar. So what would you say about that?
Even potatoes?
Yes, to tell you the truth, yeah, because of the drought situation, because potatoes grow out of rain from Africa. And what we are doing with foresight planning is what exactly government has done in terms of moving to irrigated agriculture. Junet spoke about 2 bags from Galana Kulalu. Facts, Junet, are that in Galana Kulalu, their commodities, their seed, what are they called, a type of seed that was producing, seed varieties that were producing up to 39 bags an acre. And what was being done is the first plant, the first harvest, they planted about 14 varieties of seed. The second, I think, was 7 that produced most. Therefore, all the politicking we have done does not help Kenya.
I want to wind up.
It's only honest. It's only good to be honest.
Yeah, I just want to wind up this question of maize because, as you know, we'll still get more information. Parliament is not done with the CS. We'll be going back, and I think on Galana Kulalu, we had the admission from the Deputy President that they have now slowed that project in favor of the dam, the water that is necessary to, you know, carry out that irrigation. So this is certainly a conversation that will continue to evolve in days to come. Let's switch gears now to another big story in politics this week, which is the fact that yesterday NASA leaders said they would all but cancel some of the multi-billion shillings contracts that were signed by the Jubilee administration. Let's listen to what Moses Wetangula had to say, and then we'll talk.
When NASA comes to power, we are going to review all those contracts signed, their value and their benefit to this country. Where it is very clear that the contracts are founded on fraud and corruption, we shall abrogate them.
And certainly many of these Jubilee projects have come under fire from the opposition coalition. Jeanette, tell me, which projects are suspect or higher on your list?
You see, Anne, first we have to bring to the attention of Kenyans that this country has gone into huge debts. When President Kibaki was leaving office in the Prime Minister, former coalition government, our debt portfolio was 1.8 trillion. Now we are discussing a debt portfolio of almost 4 trillion shillings. And a lot of this money, we've been told, has gone to mega projects. The SGR, the Eurobond, many of these dams they are talking about, they're doing at 60 billion each. And this is not the first time a government that comes into place does audit. When Kibaki government came in, they stopped, the Golden Bag was stopped, and a commission of inquiry was formed to look into Golden Bag, and we recovered the Grand Regency Hotel. Where Anglo leasing was stopped, and the people who looted the country have been taken to court by this government. It is normal for a new government to come and audit mega projects, especially suspicious projects that we feel that Kenyans have not gotten value for money.
Which is suspicious?
Especially the SGR. You can example, there are many projects, there are many mega projects. This government has been committing Kenyans on one major debt after another. Just recently, 2 days ago, the president went to China and committed the country to a 359 billion shillings again. to extend the SGR from Naivasha to Kisumu. I don't know where it is heading to, because I expected Uganda to start their rail from Kampala, so that we can have serious interconnection of business in the region. I don't know what they are taking to Kisumu or to Nakuru or to Naivasha.
So when you hear the explanation from the administration that their agreement with lending institutions is that, you know, the ratio could go up to 60% and we're only at 51%, does that worry you?
You see, Anne, you don't borrow because the ratio allows you. You borrow to do something that is of value to Kenyans. You don't just go borrow because you have space to borrow. You know, I can borrow. You know, you cannot go to the bank today and the bank tells you I can give you $1 million. They say, can I borrow? When you don't have any project or any tangible thing that you want to do with that money. A lot of this money that has been borrowed has been looted in this country.
You see, that's for a fact. You know, and I think you can see how much Junet is struggling. The country borrows because we are able and we have the ability and capacity, to absorb the debt, to utilize that debt to invest in projects that will turn around the economy of this country and make the economy grow. 3, if we're able to pay that debt, and that's where the percentages come in. I would be worried as a Kenyan if government was borrowing and we are unable to pay. If government was borrowing and we're not investing this money into an SGR project that will transform not just the economy of the East African region, but economies even in Suna, that your people will be able to move their goods from Suna, from Migori to Mombasa, and even move. Let me finish, Junet. We will feed your people. Your people being able to move their commodities from Migori to Mombasa in less than 6 hours today, to move commodities from Migori, to move your bananas from Migori.
Let us not misfocus from the clip we saw, because Honorable Moses Wetangula is saying, you know, they will review. But I hope that Honorable Wetangula does not confuse two things. You know, if you look at the issue at hand, it has two phases. The first phase is the local phase, whether the money that we are borrowing is being put to good use or not.
Correct.
But the other phase is the international phase. People can give you money, but they can't control how you use it, but they want you to pay back the money. So, under the rules of international, under our current constitution, Article 2 of the Constitution, the rules of international law are part and parcel of this constitution. So if a legal agreement has been entered between the government, which is in place now, and another government rejects it, Kenya will suffer in a way you have never seen if it refuses to pay back the debts by revising the original agreements that were done under international law. So what the opposition should be focusing in my opinion, is not to start talking against China or talking against anybody who has given us money, but to focus on the way we have used our resources, the resources we have borrowed. I expect them to focus on things like SGR, that initially the initial cost of SGR was 327 billion shillings. But if you do the quantification now, it has moved to almost 400. They should be asking, why has this changed? Who has been inflating prices?
Do you not think it is legitimate to say that we need to review some of these contracts, and where, you know, we find that we're not getting value for money, then something ought to be done?
You see, under international law, it's expected that when a government enters an agreement with another government, there are rules which govern that, and they are aware that lawyers from both sides agreed on this deal. Now, the only thing is that you cannot go back and say, we are recording this because you are involved in a deal which you will have to argue it in a court of law, not just reviewing here. You will go to the international court and say, you saw what happened, just a minute. You saw what happened with the Anglo leasing?
We ended up paying?
We ended up paying. So these guys are telling us what is not true. They should focus on the local scene.
No.
You should focus on the local scene.
Yes. This is governance. The professor might be professor of politics in some of the universities here. Any money that is committed to Kenya... No, that is a fact. That you're not an expert in governance.
Are you?
Yeah. No, I'm better than you. I'm in parliament. No. Because I understand some form of governance.
Doesn't know governance. I teach parliament about governance.
Let's stop posturing.
This is not a lecture hall. And let me tell you something. If a government has borrowed and there is no value for Kenyans in that borrowing, and government that comes into place has all the responsibility to stop that and look for the culprits who did and committed this country to that kind of borrowing. It's for a fact.
No.
It's within the law.
No.
The issue of legalistic being, China will get annoyed. Why do you commit to Kenyans a law that you will not be able to do?
Other than the legalists, other than the legalists,
those are issues in court.
Prof, other than the legalists and what you're saying, I fully agree with you that we have obligations. And in fact, governments operate in perpetuity. Whether it is a Jubilee or a KANU government or an ODM government, the government continues and it has an obligation to adhere to those treaties. Two, what Wetangula, the son to the chief, is telling Kenyans is one, that they will remove the managed equipment program for healthcare. That is ensuring that Kenyans are no longer queuing at Kenyatta National Hospital from Migori, Suna, from Bondo, from Kikuyu, from Thika, going to queue at KNH and Moi Referral Hospital for 9 months to get simple dialysis, Junet. What you're telling Kenyans is that they would rather transport their goods at higher costs on roads, not through SGR, but through our roads. And imagine the tragedy that we are seeing every day on our roads because of trucks being on our roads, the high cost of production. They're telling Kenyans, the same people, and is one of your co-principals in ODM, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who was asking, why is Jubilee connecting Kenyans to power? The part of the money that has come from World Bank has gone into financing the last mile project that is connecting poor people, poor peasant farmers in Suna, to get electricity. You are telling that person not to get electricity because Mudavadi and Wetangula does not service delivery. My worry is that every other rally, let me finish this, every other rally, Junet, that you have beat in Kisii or wherever, you never have an agenda to sell to the people of Kenya.
No, there's an agenda. There's a project. You're bringing too much.
You know, I expect Jubilee to speak the way they are speaking, because when you tell somebody you're going to audit what he has done for the last 4 years, you expect him to fear, because many of the contracts that have happened in this country are inflated at very high cost. So we have to look into those matters. That's why I told you Anglo leasing was looked into, Golden Back, that's how Grand Regency returned back. Number two, we have issues and programs.
The master of Anglo leasing.
It is Jubilee who goes to every rally. They go to every rally talking about our Jama. You will never hear them telling Kenyans what they have done for this country the last 4 years. Our Majama. That's the way he speaks in every rally and his principles. This, I can assure you, NASA will not accept the 4 billion trillion debt just to go like that. They will look into it and want to know every coin and every shilling where it went.
All right, finally, because that we'll have to wait and see if you get into power.
We will.
Okay, finally, we'll wait and see. Finally, there is the report from IBC where we've seen the final list of candidates, and Kalonzo Musyoka has been, who was endorsed by the Wiper Party, of course, this party, as a presidential candidate, is appearing on that lineup of presidential candidates who are going to fight it out in August. So, Junet, let's start with you, because we understand there's an agreement. He is supposed to be running as he's supposed to be the running mate for Raila Odinga, who is the NASA flag bearer. How is it that we have him on this list?
You see, Anne, every political party, including ODM, Wiper, ANC, they had their National Delegates Congress endorsing their leaders at one time as presidential candidates. And parties submitted names to IBC because there were some clearances that were required at that time. By then, NASA had not made this agreement that they have deposited with the political parties registrar. But it is on 28th and 29th when presidential candidates will be presenting their papers to IBC officially. And you will see at that point in time, Raila and Kalonzo going together as a president and as a presidential candidate and his deputy.
Why wasn't it withdrawn, though, after the arrangement was made?
You know, those ones, whatever is with IBC now, it does not count. What is important is the documents you present on 28th and 29th as presidential candidate. And us as members of parliament will be presenting them on 1st and 2nd. Any paper I took to IBC now does not matter. What matters is what I present on that day of nomination. It's called a nomination day for those who are in politics.
You know, it's a pointer to the mistrust, and I really don't care whether Kalonzo Musyoka or Mudavadi or the others present their papers on whichever date, and it doesn't really matter to us in Jubilee. But I want to say, maybe because it's in the interest of Kenyans to know, there's a lot of mistrust within the ODM put together coalition. I think when you listen to Raila Odinga in his recent interview on this same station, Raila Odinga being asked about his running as a one-term presidential candidate, he was unable to answer that question to Kenyans honestly, because he knows what he did to Kalonzo Musyoka in 2013 in the run-up to the 2017 elections, and he knows for a fact that in 2022, after losing to Uhuru Kenyatta in this coming election, he will still be a presidential candidate in 2022. And I think, look at the other core principles. The son to the chief is running a senator somewhere.
Moses Wetangula, yes.
Yeah, Moses Wetangula is running a senator. Isaac Ruto, the wannabe co-principal in NASA, is also running as a governor. And therefore, they even forget that some of the positions that have been promised under that coalition will require parliamentary approval. Vetting and parliamentary approval for those who want to be cabinet secretaries, I don't know, chief cabinet secretaries and their deputies, and all those. Junet sitting here will tell you they are presenting candidates as ODM, as Wiper, as Ford Kenya, as ANC, while as we're presenting joint candidates as Jubilee. And I want to tell them, if we're talking about tyranny of numbers in this current parliament, the 12th parliament will have a bigger number of Jubilee members of parliament. And therefore, even imagining were you to win, that you would get the positions you want or even manage to change the constitution is untold of. It cannot happen.
Let me interject. I have always told the Honorable Ichungwa to be controlled by humility. You talk too much, and when you are talking, you make people feel that you have no humility. You know, you will be assisted. You just slow down. This is not a matter that we have just, this news about Kalonzo has just come in. But you don't have to give it a lot of interpretation until after 28th. And secondly,
I have to be honest.
The IEBC should stop doing this to the nation. We don't need this kind of publicity. All they need to do, let them concentrate on what? On organizing a credible election, making sure that the returning officers, the choice of returning officers, no, just to forget about that. It obeys Article 10 of the Constitution. Wonderful. It's not just about transparency, but representation, regional, ethnic, and so on. And forget, because it has a huge job to do in the next 3 months. But whether or not Kalonzo is a running mate is a trivial matter, and the IEBC cannot even win any medal.
I think by mentioning that. It is unfair, Prof, to accuse IEBC.
No, I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying
it is not IEBC that has given the news. It is the media. Therefore, if you have anyone to accuse, the media.
So are you accusing the media?
I am not accusing anyone. I suppose you are a media.
Let's not get into a brawl.
Let me finish. The media has an obligation to inform.
You know, there is this notion.
Therefore, IEBC, and I think I agree with you on one point. Let me finish. I agree with Prof. IEBC should be focusing on delivering a free, fair, and transparent election. And that I agree with. And therefore, that is why ODM should not seek to micromanage the electoral process. Today, I've also heard in the news that you want even to determine which returning officer is posted where. Why you want to determine that?
You said they wanted to be consulted.
They want to be consulted. And I've seen Chiloba saying that they were consulted and all that.
No.
And anyway, for us, I do not know who the returning officer in my constituency is. And I'm not focusing on the referee. I'm focusing on the game, on the agenda that I'm selling to the people of Kikuyu. And therefore, for ODM, that is all you should also be doing.
The tragedy.
Focus on that. You're focusing on returning officers. You're focusing on intimidating Kenyans that you will not go into elections if we do not.
We're out of time, so I'm going to allow you all 1 minute. Rejoinder, Jeanette, I'll start with you.
I wanted to say that the tragedy that's happening in this country is when you speak about IEBC, it is Jubilee that replies to you. It's not IEBC. So I don't know whether IEBC is Jubilee and Jubilee is IEBC. IEBC has competent people to respond on any and every issue that you raise to them. Now, the issue of Kalonzo and dividing the principles of NASA, you know, Jubilee has been suffering from this hyena syndrome for some time now. I think they have now gone beyond that. That one of them will drop one time. They can see people have even deposited an agreement signed by Kalonzo and his party, and Wetangula and his party, Raila and his party, with the political parties registrar. I think somebody needs to cancel Jubilee. That now they need to focus to the election, because I can see they are losing. When you see the way now NASA has come out this time, I don't think we are going to have an election in this country. It will just be a walkover. I don't see any worthy opponent, surely, in the form of Jubilee. The other day they said they want to form one homogeneous party for the country called Jubilee. They ended up looking for small parties now in Marsabit, in Mandera.
You're opening a new battlefront, and you're trying to run out the
I
program.
pity them.
But your point is made.
Honestly,
you pity them.
I pity them. Honestly, it's very.
One minute,
I think we've been very honest. We've only welcomed any other political party that has sought to support President Uhuru Kenyatta, because those different political parties, the 5 or 6 political parties that have sought to endorse Uhuru Kenyatta as their presidential candidate, is because they see the transformative agenda that Jubilee has offered Kenyans, and they want to help Uhuru Kenyatta carry on with that agenda. I think we have not defended IBC in any way. IBC, when you threatened them, I saw Chiloba and his chairman come out to defend themselves. In fact, not just Chiloba. The Chief Justice himself did ask ODM and your principals to respect the electoral the judicial process in court. And it is all about leaders who want to be national leaders, believing in the rule of law and respecting institutions, something that dictatorial leaders like those leading your coalition do not believe in.
Prof, finally.
Listening to my friend Kimani Ichung'wah.
Why do you only listen to me?
No, I have listened to Junet and I've told him what I think. But I want also to tell you what I think. You know, you have revealed something very interesting. All along you in Jubilee have been thinking that NASA should split so that you pick the pieces. No. And that's why you are excited by this Kalonzo thing. But if I were you, if I were you, so it hasn't happened, so you are really in panic mood. But let me tell you this, for us as neutrals who are looking at this political contest, we are very happy because it must be competitive. But let me tell you, Jubilee is in trouble. If I were you, I would go and think about the strategy I will use to defeat NASA, because the NASA the team you see today, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo, is a refurbished team. It is a renovated team. It is not what you saw in 2013, and you will laugh to like this until you start crying. So don't do that. Just be very careful. With a disclaimer of no stealing of votes.
Let me say, I have to laugh. Same old team being presented to us. We'll beat them by 9 a.m. in the morning.
Until you cry. Okay, we're done. Thank you so much for watching Opinion Court. Thank you for coming on the show. Certainly we'll keep talking as the days go by. We're back with more after this.